You ever wonder why it's so important to have portion controls in your restaurant? I'm going to talk about that in about 2 seconds. Hello, this is Dave Scott Peters, creator of the Restaurant Prosperity Formula, and I get it, you're busy, right? I can hear your kitchen manager right now. We don't need portion controls. My guys are good. They can use their hand, right? But we've got a hand, somebody with a small hand, somebody with a big hand. Imagine what that means to the cost of your pizza if you're a pizzeria, right? Cheese is gold. And the other part of this is not only does it cost you money, but it creates inconsistency for your customers. The reason why they come back to you over and over again is because they can expect the same experience, and that starts with your product. So let's talk about some solutions to portion control. Before I do that, do me a favor, make sure in the bottom down here, give me some suggestions or solutions that you use in your restaurant that we can share in our community that everybody else can learn, because I don't know everything. You may have a great idea. So let's get into it. The first thing I want you to do is you've got to have scales. Now I get it. You're thinking right now, another digital scale? I bet if I walk in your kitchen right now and I go to that stainless steel prep table and I open up that drawer, you know, the one that's stuck, right? In it are 3 dead digital scales. And you're like, I'm not getting these SOBs, another scale? You got to be kidding me. Stop buying digital scales. Get those springy ones. They're cheap. The key is calibrating them. Why? Because look, if that little dial is so sensitive and it's off and I over portion over and over and over again, I'm losing money. And it's really simple. My old business partner, my last company, taught me a real easy way to do it. He's a chef. I'm a little embarrassed to say that I had to learn this, but I'm not a kitchen guy. You go grab a stick of butter. Why? It's a pound. So when I put it on the spring scale, and I adjust it, make sure it's at a pound, I know that I'm calibrated. Now, how about ladles? Ladles are really expensive. Now, again, I'm not a chef, but I also do understand restaurants extremely well, and I know something about ladles in the sense that if I go down the line and I put a ladle in each one of my sauces or anything that I need to make sure is ladled out during service, I want to make sure I use the right label based on the recipe, whether it's a 1 ounce ladle, 2 ounce ladle, and so on. Why is that important? Imagine demi-glace. So my chefs that are watching me, demi-glace, it takes a lot of time to make. It is critical to your dish. It is salty, it is expensive. So if your recipe calls for a 1 ounce ladle and your kitchen puts a 2 ounce ladle in, what happens? Number 1, you lose money. Number 2, you kill the dish, right? The flavors are all wrong. So you've got to make sure we have the right ladles. How about making sure that we have any kind of measuring container? Think about it. There's lots of chain restaurants out there that, especially maybe fast casual, where you go down a line and you're getting a salad and they've got a literally almost like a coffee cup size and a bigger coffee cup size that they fill it up with salad. That's the small and the large. Does not matter what you use as long as you use something that is standard. And that way you know what's in there. I had a good friend of mine, a member, who used a Taco Bell to-go cup as on the line for his French fries. Doesn't matter as long as we have a consistent portion. Now, what about standard vessels, right? Again, making sure that if we've got a plate, a dish, a soup bowl, whatever, that we've got consistency in what we're using in our plates. Why? Because we're giving our guests the best experience possible and we're making sure our portions are right. Now, why is this so important? Well, there's something called menu mix, right? If you want to know what your ideal food cost is, it takes accurate, up-to-date recipe costing cards and that very expensive cash register many of us use that we don't use properly, and that's the point of sale system. Most important piece of equipment you'll ever buy in your restaurant. Well, if I take the menu mix from it and I take my recipe costing cards, I know how many I sold of each item. I know how much product I should have used. I know how much money I should have brought in. I know that use divided by sales. I know my ideal food cost. Well, here's the crazy part. Do you know that if you over portioned every dish by 10%, every item 10%, now can your naked eye see 10% more shredded cheese on a pizza? No. Can you see 10% more French fries on a plate? No. Can you see 10% more of rice or beans? You name it. No. When you see it on the line and it comes out the window too big, you go, wow, you need to redo that. It's 25, it's 30% higher. So if we can agree that the naked eye can't see 10% over portioning, well, let's understand this, that if I have an ideal food cost, no waste, no theft, no spoilage, perfect restaurant, which does not exist, based on accurate updated recipe costing cards, what my customers actually purchase, if I over portion each one of my dishes by only 10%, I'm going to increase my food costs by 3 points. So if you're $1 million a year business and you take a 30% food cost and you raise it 3 points, that crushes your profitability. So it's really important, based on profitability and consistency, that the guest gets the same experience every single time. So if you want to start to control your food costs, it starts with portion controls in your restaurant. And do me a favor, by the way, if you like what I've got here, make sure you like this channel, subscribe now, and I'll see you next week.